If you have some collections outstanding, should you be paying them or should you leave it as is? Welcome back to my channel, everyone. My name is Raghav Manchanda. I'm the managing broker of Seven Lending. In today's video, I want to talk about collections, dealing with collection agencies, how to go about it, what can you do, and what do collections mean on your credit bureau. So, going right into the topic, one of the most common questions we ask and even see on YouTube is, if I have collections, should you pay them? And I strongly disagree with a lot of the advice on YouTube where people say, oh, if you have collections, just let it be there. Don't do anything about that. I am not a fan of that. Unless you want problems with your credit related products in the future, I would say find ways to paying off your debts and making sure as soon as something goes in collections, fixing it. Now, let me go through the basics first. Typically, something goes to a collection agency and shows up as a collection on your credit bureau if the original credit grantor, where you got the product from, has not received your payment. They may have tried contacting you and may not have heard anything, and they basically pass off that debt to a collection agency. Now, a collection agency's compensation is based on how much money they can recover from you. That's why they will pester you, call you, message you, mail you, whatever is needed to collect their debts. Now, for the sake of this video and to make sure I can educate you better, let's say you have an outstanding mobile phone bill and you moved cities or provinces and you totally forgot about it. Now, this particular debt from the mobile agency or the wireless provider, if they were not able to collect it from you, will get passed on to the collection agency. You will typically get to know of this when you're applying for a new credit or when there's a credit check or you're going through your own Equifax and TransUnion, and this can be a problem. Now, if you do have collections or a lot of bad debts on your credit, it can have some negative effect. The first negative effect obviously is a lower credit score. And as you know, a credit score is a key factor when it comes to qualifying and borrowing for traditional loans, bank products, or even other things like applying for rentals. Certain government jobs and regulated professions also ask you if you have any bankruptcy, consumer proposals, or anything, especially relating to the finance industry. So having a good credit score does make a difference. Even if you have a lower credit score, but your overall history of paying debts is good, that is still okay for a lot of these cases. But a big factor is if you have unpaid collections, or if you had them and you paid it back, it can have other effects on your financial future. Now, let's go through what to do when you find out. So the best way to making sure first you're up to date is you can sign up for a lot of free credit monitoring platforms. This include Credit Karma or going through Equifax or TransUnion monitoring your credit. Some of the banks and credit card providers out there also give you free access to your credit score. So once you get to know you have something in collections, the first thing you want to do is find out the details of the agency or the company. There would be a collections agency whose name would be written there. So at this point, what this means is the original credit grantor has passed on the debt to this agency. Now, your job is to make sure, firstly, before you do anything, to make sure the debt belongs to you. Sadly, because of a lot of credit and identity fraud, and sometimes if you have a common name, debt which don't belong to you could be attributed to you. So you want to be mindful and make sure that this is your debt. If it is not your debt, you want to contact the company who initially started that credit. So let's say you see a charge from Rogers, which is passed on to a different collection agency, but you never applied for a Rogers or you've never had a Rogers SIM card. You want to contact them right away, and at the same time, see if you can dispute that with the credit agency. I'll give you more details on that later. But fast forward, let's assume you do have collections for whatever reason. Could be a financial situation, difficult life circumstance. What do? Well, the first thing you should do when you find out you have collections is you want to get details on the amount owing, how much do you have to pay to take it off, and in some cases you can also negotiate how much you have to pay. So let's say your debt is $5,000. You get notified about it from your mortgage broker who's applying for a mortgage from you or your banker. The first thing you want to do is call the collections agency who has that debt. get all the details unless you have that already, and make sure, and I will explain more on this later, is you ask them to give you the final number. You can negotiate in a lot of cases as well to get a lowered amount if there is a financial concern, but get them to send you something in writing, preferably over the mail, that this is the full and final amount owing, and if you pay this amount, everything will be settled and you will not owe them anything. Now, this step is really important. Once you find that out, you want to look at a few different scenarios on how you can pay off certain collections. So one of the first things is see if you have any emergency funds, savings, or TFSs, which you can potentially liquidate to pay this off. If not that, see if there's family or friends money. Even if that is not the scenario, then the last step, and this is not something which is preferred, is you should look into if you can perhaps borrow the money. That could come from refinancing your mortgage and getting a low interest loan, or even getting an unsecured personal loan through your bank or other third-party subprime lenders out there. But do remember, for home equity loan or mortgages, you can get decent rates, but if you go into unsecured loans, typically the rates get higher. Even if that doesn't work out, I know some people have talked about going into bankruptcy or consumer proposal, and I am not an expert on that, but I don't think we should go there unless that's the last resort. And even before that, you need to make sure you talk to trustees, consumer proposal companies, but get good advice, because those things stay for a number of years on your credit profile. So typically collections and a lot of those other things can stay on your credit reports for 5 to 7 years. And unless necessary, and I understand things can happen, you want to absolutely avoid it. So let's say you now do have a way to come up with money, whether it's from getting a home equity loan if you're a homeowner, or through money borrowed from family or friends. You want to get something in writing from the credit agency, the collections agency. Make sure, again, just I'm reiterating myself, they send it to you over mail and not on email. Now, once you have something, and let's say you've negotiated the amount, a lot of times I've had people being able to negotiate their debts to 70, 80 cents on a dollar. So a 10,000 debt can often be negotiated to get it slightly lower. What they then do is, the easiest way is go to the bank, or if you're getting funds through a lawyer or whatever, and take the document you got from the credit collection agency along with all your amount and ask them to pay it. And if you've gone to the bank, one of the best things to do to protect yourself is make sure they put their stamp, the teller puts the stamp, gives you a deposit receipt, so you have a final confirmation. The reason this step is important, because even though a lot of resources online say it is the credit collections agency to update your bureau once you have fully paid the debt, sometimes it does not work as planned. I have seen cases where the debt was not updated because of maybe negligence or systems error or whatever, and one of my clients had already paid off a debt, but it still showed up as collections on their bureau for 1 or 2 years after payment. And we had to call the credit bureau agencies, Equifax, on behalf of them and get it removed. But to do that, you need that paperwork. Now, if you have paid off your collections, the second thing you need to do is make sure you've either signed up with Equifax and TransUnion, which are the two major agencies for credit monitoring in Canada, and you're monitoring your credit profile, or you can also request for a copy of your credit report via mail. If you have signed up for some of their online platforms, typically after paying out a debt with a collections agency, you will see within a few weeks it being removed. If it has not been removed, you need to dispute it with the credit agent, with the Equifax or TransUnion, the credit reporting agency, to make sure it is taken off the credit bureau. I will put a link for the Equifax dispute form, so if you are in a situation, you can do that. Once you have paid that off and it's removed, finally then I think you're good to go. But still you need to have the paperwork, because a lot of times there's various systems which these lenders or collection agencies have put in place, which can be really disturbing. They can be a real pain, and even if you paid it out, you might still get calls, and you want to make sure you get rid of it and clean up your credit bureau. The other part here is, if you are in such a situation, there are alternatives and ways to arrange money and get rid of these, but make sure you're working with accredited professionals, mortgage brokers or lawyers, etc., to deal with this. But all in all, I hope you found this video helpful. And if you want more mortgage tips, or if you are in a situation want to know how to leverage home equity, any other questions or concerns like that, feel free to follow us, comment us, and contact us. See you next time.